Across 2,175 square kilometers, we've redefined what it means to live and thrive in harmony with nature. Over 4.6 million square meters of green spaces breathe life into our cities, with 2.8 million seedlings, 539,670 trees, and 1.6 million shrubs shaping a sustainable landscape. With over 67% of industrial waste recycled, 20 specialized companies ensure efficient waste management, driving us towards a cleaner tomorrow. Our achievements have earned global recognition, solidifying our place as pioneers in environmental stewardship. Innovation drives our progress, from advanced technology, improving service efficiency, to frameworks that enhance quality of life. We balance urban growth with environmental protection. The lessons we've learned remind us that sustainability isn't just a goal, it's a way of life. Together, we're shaping urban areas ready to face the challenges of tomorrow. This is our journey, a story of resilience, growth, and harmony. Together, we're building a sustainable future for generations to come. Royal Commission for Jebel and Yanbu. Timeless growth.
So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome and good evening. First of all, I would like to say a huge thank you to the Saudi House for graciously hosting this event today at the World Economic Forum, and also to the Royal Commission for Jebel and Yanbu for organising this very important session. So my name is Mandy Drury, and it's my great honour to be here and moderating this session. It's called Smart Planning Metrics in Sustainable Industrial Cities, and I think that actually the vision for what a modern industrial city could look like was created 50 years ago, and so now what we're really witnessing is the fruits of those labours. And essentially, we're throwing it forward now with the creation of an even smarter city and a newer vision in Oxagon, which we're going to be talking about with Vishal in just a moment's time. So essentially, it's past, present, and future, so we're really epitomising the theme of timeless growth. We have 45 minutes today, and there is opportunity as well for Q&A if you would like to ask a question. There are some leaflets that will be handed out. All you need to do is just to scan the QR code and you can submit your question. So without further ado, let me now introduce the panellists, because without them, there is no session. I have here sitting next to me His Excellency Mahmoud Al-Deeb, the CEO of the Royal Commission in Jebel. I have then as well to talk about Oxagon, Vishal Wanchu, the CEO of Oxagon, which is, gosh, I mean, if you look at the pictures, it's a big floating port city and global logistics hub in its creation, and I understand it is going to be, when it's finished, the largest floating structure on the planet. We also have here Darren Mort, who is the President of Infrastructure at Bechtel, which amongst many other things that you'll be talking about today, you're also working on Trojena, the very futuristic and almost sci-fi looking iconic mountain destination of Neom. And then to round it all out here, we have Mr. Pierre Santoni, who is the President of Infrastructure at Parsons Corporation, which has a vast experience in building modern and sustainable and smart communities. So without further ado, let me get into the questioning here and start off with you, Your Excellency, because we've broken this session into nice compartments, into a section of pillars. The first pillar is sustainable urban development, and I would love to know, Your Excellency, how you feel that economic initiatives can be effectively integrated with sustainable urban planning in order to basically create resilient and also thriving cities.
Sure, thank you, Amanda. Very glad to be with my colleagues, and also honored to be with the distinguished guests. Talking about the Royal Commission for Jebel and Yanbu for the past 50 years to date and for 500 years to come and more. Talking about timeless, what you mentioned, and focusing on this portion, it's a great example to...
Microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, my leg is working.
Is it working?
Mine does.
Okay. So it's a great example. We have for Royal Commission Jebel and Yanbu, as you stated, we talk about timeless. Royal Commission Jebel Yanbu is timeless. It has been for the past 50 years, for the present, and for the coming hundreds of years. Now, the integration between the economic initiatives and the planning, sustainable planning, in Jebel and Yanbu for Royal Commission and other cities in the Royal Commission, we have great comprehensive infrastructure that is generated out of a planning, a strategic plan that is done 10 years, and sometimes we do it even in more shorter time, depends on the situation. So the infrastructure is excellent for the economical initiatives, different economical initiatives, either the residential or industrial or commercial or any type of initiative. And in this infrastructure, the comprehensive infrastructure, we plan for sustainable concept, taking care of the waste, how we manage the waste out of these initiatives, how we get something good out of this waste. We always have the circular economy in our mind when we talk about the waste, because it's a feedstock to other industry where they generate profit and value. Also, talking about this initiative versus the smart sustainable planning, we look at clustering for the different initiatives. For example, in the industry, similar industries that there is synergy between them, you find them next to each other. The feedstock that comes to them through the pipeline corridor or through the conveyor belts, all of this is part also of the effective use of resources, which is part of sustainable planning for these initiatives. Also, such initiatives cannot be sustained without proper manpower. We are blessed with the excellent education system. Since beginning to date, we are celebrating the success stories that we have among students, girls and boys. In Jebel and similar in Yanbu, 86% of the graduates, plus or minus, they are attracted by great companies and by great governmental entities. You look at the waste that is generated from these initiatives. Also, there's a way to treat it to sustain the environment. Transportation, also, that is also considered for such initiatives. We do have the pipeline corridor. We do have the conveyor belts. Now we are adding the train, which is also bring another dimension of sustainability, where it reduces trucking, reduces the environmental impact. So the train is now being utilized to reduce the trucks and protect the environment. I mean, so many other ways.
Right.
Now, before I give it to my colleague, to have a sustainable initiative, I mean, such initiative will not be sustained without people are happy and they have a good life. So the quality of life, we look at it in Jebel and Yanbu, Royal Commission for Jebel and Yanbu, in all the cities. We had the best beaches, 17 kilometers plus or minus of beautiful beaches with great infrastructure, lots of green land. For each person, there's about 90 square meter per person compared to, I think, 12 or 15, an international standard. So we are way beyond the international standard. You look at the school, you look at the healthcare, and all what makes the life more beautiful and with a high quality.
Absolutely.
You find it in Royal Commission Jebel and Yanbu.
Absolutely. There's no point in having modern industrial cities if you don't also focus on the lifestyle. I love that you mentioned waste recycling and the circular economy. That's going to be one of our pillars later on in the session. But first of all, I would like to get to you, Darren, because obviously projects of this scale are never without challenges and timeline extensions and budget overruns. That just goes with the territory, doesn't it? So I'd love to know what some of the challenges that RCJY has faced during the development of Jebel and Yanbu industrial cities, and what kind of strategies you had to adopt to try and overcome those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like this is working okay. So pleasure to be here. Really pleased to join the conversation. So for those that don't know Bechtel, we're one of the largest construction, engineering and project management organizations in the world. We've actually been active in Saudi Arabia for 80 years, contributing to the economic, social development and the infrastructure development through a huge number of mega projects. But something I really want to emphasize is the longest serving project, the project we've been on longer than any other in our company, is our partnership with the Royal Commission at Jubail for 50 years. Just a remarkable legacy for our organization. And through that time, we've been able to bring the process, the talent, the innovations in partnership with the Royal Commission to drive economic growth, but also, as you say, create wonderful livable cities for the population there. So many challenges in 50 years. Three that jump to mind straight away. The first one is the challenge to think in terms of decades and not just in terms of years. This really is a multi-generational development. So anticipating and planning for the needs of future industries and future communities is a challenge within itself. Coupled with that, the second is the need to be highly adaptable because needs change, whether they be community needs, industry needs, economic changes, and of course the implementation of the Vision 2030 goals and how that complements and I think builds on what's being achieved by the Royal Commission. And thirdly, this all comes back to talent and capability, the human capital that delivers all of this. And those three things together, I think, personify and really represent the success there. The thing that ties all of these together is the master planning effort, the really strategic planning effort that started 50 years ago and continues today. And so much rigor and thought has gone into that during that period to define not just what's necessary today, but what's necessary in the future. And in our experience as Bechtel, that's unprecedented and unparalleled around the world in any other project that we're involved in, and takes real discipline and vision, I think, to achieve. And the final thing I would just say in terms of addressing this challenge, and I think it's to your point on talent, from day one, I think the need for capability and leadership was recognized. Therefore, in the master plan, educational facilities for the Commission, the Royal Commission population has been foundational. And today, Jubail has some of the best schools in all of Saudi Arabia, has industrial colleges, technical colleges, and very soon we'll be completing and opening the Jubail University College with 18,000 additional places for students. And I'm very proud that a big part of our team in Bechtel delivering this work for the Royal Commission is people who've been through that education and bring that quality and education to delivering this challenge.
Talent acquisition and also the nurturing of homegrown talent is so important, isn't it? So Pierre, perhaps you'd like to throw in your 2 cents worth as well on the challenges that you've faced, and are they surmountable and how?
So first of all, thanks, Mandy. So I'd like to thank the Royal Commission for inviting us. Very much like Bechtel, this is a multi-generational partnership between Parsons and the Royal Commission, so it's a great honor to be here. Our company is 80 years old. 50 of those years we've spent supporting industrial cities through the Royal Commission in Saudi Arabia. It is the longest partnership that we have in the company, so it's truly a great honor to be here. So just adding a couple of granular points to this, when we started out in Yanbu in 1975, there was nothing. The location was very strategic along the Red Sea, but there was no infrastructure in place. There was no transport infrastructure. There was no energy infrastructure. There was no planning standards when we started those Royal Commissions. There was no benchmarks against which to measure success. So we had to establish all of these very early on. The human element we talked about, there was no skilled technical workforce pretty much anywhere in Saudi Arabia. So we had to build that pipeline of talent. We had to nurture it. And also on the institutional side, we had to build a city from scratch. So a city needs an administration. It needed protocols to operate. It needs O&M. And on the sort of central side, it needed support from the Central Royal Commission and the government, obviously, to help it to set up. There was no financing protocols in place, no way to plan and spend for spending those multi-generational investment amounts. So all this had to be set up, and as we described, the way to address these challenges was through sound planning, making sure that we used what was known through partnerships with globalist organizations like Parsons and Bechtel, the Royal Commission, used benchmarks from around the world, setting up cities, both for the industrial part and the residential part, the community part, that were able to grow together and phase in phases. So we're now 2.5 times bigger in Yanbu in terms of the residential part, about 4 times bigger in terms of the industrial part of it. All this had to be planned, and of course you don't put all that investment forward at the beginning, so you had to phase it. So data-driven strategies are very important.
So a lot of lessons learned and a lot of experience then under all of your belts. So let's throw it forward and what that means then for the planning of Oxagon, and for how you're developing a smart, sustainable, urban and industrial floating city. So perhaps you'd just like to, for the benefit of the audience and those who are listening in as well from afar, give us just a little top-line view on what exactly is Oxagon. And my question, why build it on water when it would be so much easier to build on land?
Well, thanks, Amanda. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I really want to thank also the Royal Commission for the invitation. You've got two really ends of the spectrum. You've got a 50-year-old industrial city in development. Oxagon's master plan was approved in October of 2020. So a very, very young industrial city, but I'm happy to say that we're really making a lot of progress. I'll give you a quick snapshot of that. So Oxagon is within the region of Neom. It's in the southwest corner of Neom. The master plan, as I said, was approved 4 years ago. It's about 50 square kilometers in total area. And if you look at the master plan, this is what was approved. It's essentially built around what is now the port of Neom. As I think the colleagues have talked about, when they went into Jubail and Yanbu, there was nothing. I arrived in January of 2021. That's when I took over the CEO position of Oxagon, and there was nothing in Oxagon at that time. It was essentially just desert and rock. But luckily, we did have the Duba port. It was an operational port, very small at the time. This port was transferred over to Oxagon in August of 2022, and it's really been pivotal for us in the development of Oxagon. So what you see on the screen is really the current master plan of Oxagon, which we've been executing over the last 4 years. And we are really focused on 4 strategic pillars to really stand up Oxagon and make it a modern industrial city that can thrive and really be the place where advanced and clean industries are set up to advance what is happening in the kingdom from a manufacturing standpoint. But advanced and clean industries really are going to require an ecosystem. You've heard some of that. Clearly, research and innovation to continue the journey of advancement is critical in the education system. And Neom has 15 different sectors. One of those sectors is education, research, and innovation. We partner very closely with them. So this is a very, very important pillar for us. Having a really state-of-the-art port and logistics, especially given the industries that we're attracting are industries that are going to be exporting around the world. And that infrastructure is really critical. We've made great advancements in really developing that infrastructure. And really importantly, of course, is the livability aspects, as you mentioned. So I want to just touch on the sustainability aspects and how we're taking into account as part of the planning how to really build a modern industrial city with sustainability as a bedrock. And really, you can boil it down into 3 core things that you want to focus on. The industries we're attracting are huge consumers of energy, huge consumers of water. They will be generating a lot of industrial wastewater. So energy, water, and materials. Industrial symbiosis, or the whole circularity, is absolutely critical in order for us to help the manufacturers that are coming in to really be able to say that they are manufacturing their products in a sustainable industrial city. So the first one, we have an energy master plan that gets us to 100% renewable energy. And that is a very, very key and attractive feature for really attracting large-scale industries that are very heavy consumers of energy. And along with that, there's a very detailed smart grid infrastructure design that takes into account how to really provide the most cost-effective renewable energy with wind and solar. So that's number one. Number two is really the water infrastructure. We've got a desalination technology that is, again, powered by renewable energy, but importantly also having key energy recovery through the entire desalination process. So that is very important in order for us to say that the manufacturers that are going to set up industries in Oxagon are really dealing with sustainable energy, sustainable water, and on the industrial wastewater and sanitary wastewater recycling, we are cleaning it to the highest standards, right? So we're cleaning it to drinking water quality, and we're going to use that water essentially for cooling purposes for industries that are locating at Oxagon. So that's how we're really looking at sustainability. And finally, of course, is the industrial symbiosis. And we've got a great example. We have a large-scale solar cell and module factory that's going to establish in Oxagon. They have a lot of silicon sludge. And the key is, how do you handle a silicon sludge? And we've got a strategy where we can use that sludge in a polymer graphene concrete factory. So strategically, essentially co-locating and using and building out this industrial symbiosis is very important.
It really is important. It also dovetails into our second pillar, which is, of course, smart infrastructure and using advanced technologies to be able to achieve what you're talking about here. Maybe you can just flesh it out a little bit more. You say that Oxagon is building advanced and clean industries and that it will help to position Saudi Arabia as an emerging hub for that.
So we have 7 industrial clusters that we're focused on. When the master plan was defined for Oxagon, the NEOM board essentially said that there are only 7 clusters in these advanced and clean industries space that Oxagon is going to focus on. So it's not an industrial city where you can come in and say you want to manufacture anything and you've got land to do that. We're very selective. The 3 industrial clusters that we're focused on now and are a key priority for us are renewable energy, technology, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the tech sector, and modern methods of construction. Given the amount of construction that's going to happen in NEOM, really industrializing construction technologies is a key focus area for us. So with renewable energy, we were fortunate. In fact, when I joined and started, we have the largest green hydrogen project in the world. And this is a partnership and a 3-way joint venture between Air Products, the leading company in industrial gases from the US, Aqua Power, which is a powerhouse in power in Saudi, and NEOM. This project is being executed at Oxagon. It's well advanced and really helped stand up Oxagon in a very, very quick, efficient way, because we had a project that had a very tight timeline. They are going to be in production with green hydrogen by the end of next year. So it's a fast-track project. It utilizes over 4 gigawatts of renewable energy that's being executed as we speak. It'll be coming online this year with solar and wind, and of course using battery technology as well. And around that green hydrogen technology, it became obvious to us that building out a renewable energy ecosystem was extremely important for not just Oxagon, but really for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And PIF has done a really great job. They've been visionaries in setting up joint ventures in 3 renewable energy companies in wind and solar. And we're going to be essentially hosting those very large-scale manufacturing for solar cells and modules, ingots and wafers. This will be the largest manufacturing hub outside of China in a single location. And China, of course, really leads in renewable energy manufacturing. So it really positions the kingdom to be not only domestically, let's say, have technology available domestically, but also be able to export this important technology. to Europe and the US.
It is important technology, and some of the technologies that you've mentioned as well are very new, very nascent. So I'd love to get your view then, Pierre, on what kind of strategies could be implemented to try and overcome some of the challenges that would be involved in adopting such new, nascent, or even sometimes unproven technology when it comes down to urban planning.
So realizing that Yanbu and Jubail are existing cities, so we'll call them legacy cities when it comes to modern technology. We're transforming them into IoT-enabled, data-driven, more AI-focused cities. We need to think primarily of how to handle and protect data when it comes to data of the city itself, but also of its citizens. So that cyber security protection aspect is extremely key to preserving the investment that is being made in those cities, and again, very, very significant investments. It's enough to just scan the headlines every day to see where so-and-so place and so utility has been disrupted through a cyber attack or even a physical attack, right? So that's extremely important. The other aspect is, having flexible frameworks that enable the technology to come in, and knowing that technology today is not going to be needed, is not necessarily going to be the one you're going to need in the future. So knowing what your customers want also today and which way they are going will enable you to plan for that technology deployment so that you don't waste investment today. And we're doing an exercise today in Yanbu where we're planning in 2025, we'll focus on doing a full comprehensive review of the customers and also potential future customers to understand what their needs are, and then apply that in the planning of the city itself.
So, Your Excellency, when you're talking about building cutting-edge cities on the edge of the desert that also live up to their green credentials, you have to have very specific and clear criteria. What kind of characteristics and criteria do you use when you're planning and defining sustainable industrial cities?
Thank you, Amanda. There are several criteria to keep in mind for a sustainable industrial city. The first one is master plan, and my colleagues here, they highlighted the importance of a master plan. Since 50 years ago till date, we are going by a master plan, and that master plan is very important and vital. I don't want to say it's holy, but it must be respected. Yes, there are some changes. There could be some changes. We need to be agile, as stated by Darren. However, I would say most of the time it's the same plan. Every 10 years, every 5 years, whenever it's needed, we do update it. The master plan, we have inputs from all the stakeholders, either in the Royal Commission or the external. Now we are blessed with also the Vision 2030, where it has its input. We are aligned with it. We are aligned with NIDLIP program. We are aligned with NIS. A lot of our government initiatives and programs, they are part of our plan. So the first criteria is to have a master plan and to run by a master plan. This master plan helps us to identify what to do where and when. And also, it helps us to make sure that we have all what it takes and all what is needed already planned and budgeted for on the right time for the right goal to be achieved. So a master plan is the first one. To keep in mind also in the master plan is the clustering. This is to assure the efficiency and the effectiveness, and also to properly utilize the resources, not to waste it. Innovative environmental solution also is another criteria for an industrial plan. One great example that we have is the cooling system. The cooling system, we take the seawater inland, and all our industry is inland. And this kept the entire seafront available for our residents, for our visitors, and for the public. And this seawater goes and provides cooling to the industry, where it is monitored very strictly. Cooling water comes from the sea and return back to the sea without harm to the sea. looking at Jubail in the Arabian Gulf or Yanbu in the Red Sea. Actually, the waterfront there, you'll find the marine life protected. This is in line with our government and the environmental regulation. Actually, it's a sanctuary for the best diving location is in the Red Sea, and a lot of fishing industry also in the Arabian Gulf. The third one, so the first is the master plan, the clustering, knowledge sharing. 50 years, we have a lot of know-how, we have a lot of knowledge to share. So every quarter, for example, currently in Jubail, and the same thing in Yanbu and other Royal Commission industrial cities, we sit with our stakeholders, with our partners, with our industry. Where we have an agenda, it's a two-way communication. We share with them our plan and what is we believe is important for them to hear, and also we get feedback from them, and we listen to what they have, best practices, knowledge sharing, and this kind of knowledge sharing and exchange, it helps all the investors and whoever in these residential industrial cities to benefit from and develop and continuously improve. When we say the 50 years, again, we are considering the Royal Commission for Jubail Yanbu as timeless. So 50 years, and we are thinking about 500 plus and more years to come. So I wish the same for
Thank you.
Oxagon. Yes.
If you allow me, Amanda, also I'd like to add the development in the education is a criteria. I mean, what an industrial city without proper manpower? As we stated, education, proper education is vital, and the other social services like the healthcare, like the entertainment, like the gardens, the parks, and the what makes the life quality of life high in the city is another criteria for a sustainable industrial city.
I think it's a great time then to perhaps do a case study. So perhaps, Pierre, you can do the honours with the case study for Yanbu Industrial City that we've mentioned many times now. We are a little tight on time, so if I can ask you to burn through as fast as possible.
I will do that.
And on the subject of time, unfortunately, my countdown clock isn't counting down. So if someone could probably give me an update on what time we can go till, then I can time it through my phone. Anyway, please, take it away.
Thank you very much. So I'll start with a video that we prepared with the Royal Commission to showcase the effort in Yanbu over the last 50 years. I hope the sound will play. It does not sound. But we're not hearing the sound.
Do you want to just talk over it, maybe?
Yeah, I think we'll just skip it then. I mean, we were going to show how the city has evolved and beautiful pictures, but we've seen them already in the background. I've been admiring sunsets in Yanbu and Jubail City Center as well. So I'll just move on with the slides very quickly. So we established the city in 1975, even though the timeline at the bottom that I'll take you through starts in 1977. And I think what's important to see here is that the master plan evolved. Obviously, it was prepared with a given population in mind, and we were planning for 500,000 people, 100,000 dwellings over the years. We're working our way through that. We talked about the challenges, logistical, human, institutional, regulatory, and planning. We worked through them, and this is very important, collaboratively, together with the institutions in Saudi Arabia, but also with global partners, because investors came from outside the kingdom. They needed incentives in some cases that the government was able to set in place in order for them to realize their investments, profit, return on their investment, because at the end of the day, a lot of these industries are private and need to turn a profit. And then, of course, we talked about the human factor. we review the master plan as we go. We keep aligning it with the strategic goals of the kingdom. We've got, Saudi Vision 2030 now that provides an overarching framework with various pillars that we subscribe to, and I'll have a slide on that a little bit later. The industrial clusters were planned with a view of providing a mix of heavy industrial, small and medium industries as well in various sectors. The planning was done for the future with, long-term economic growth in mind, not only hydrocarbon, but growth of various industries feeding from hydrocarbons. Sustainability, environmental focus, significant investments in communities as well. And then community and technological integration, making sure that people have a place to live and to work that they enjoy. Accomplishments, it's hard to see there, but His Excellency Engineer Khalid and I are standing with also the CEO of Yanbu when we achieved the Green Business Council, the LEED Gold certification for Yanbu Industrial City, the first of its kind in the world. We have, that was in March 2023. Yanbu also received an ISO certificate for sustainable cities and communities, the first one in the kingdom to receive that. So these efforts, these achievements are the result of all the efforts that we've been making, and some of the data is shown on the right side of the slide. I mean, we're saving up 60% of makeup fuel, for example. It's not mentioned in here, but that's part of the energy efficiency successes. We're through circular economy initiatives, we boosted the percentage of recycling waste to 77%. That was mentioned in the original video. So a few data points: we're saving 16,000 tons of heavy oil fly ash waste, and 25,000 tons of sugar refining waste that are diverted from landfill to serve as a feed into cement production on site. So very similar to what Oxagon is trying to achieve, is planning to achieve. We're doing it already over there in Yanbu. So aligning the objectives with Vision 2030. So through three broad pillars, I won't go through all of them, but energy diversification, economic growth, environmental stewardship, and quality of life, very, very important. And then circular economy and carbon reduction. Lesson learned, very, very quickly, because that's very important.
Always.
Robust planning and governance is essential. The data we collect is in service of the planning and governance of the city. We need to achieve, dynamic master planning is key. It's extremely important to make sure that we don't know what we don't know, and we cater for that in our approach. Contextual data application. Data needs to be used to make decisions. We're in an age where it's a lot easier to collect huge amounts of data, but then how do we process them? How do we use them for the benefit of the city is extremely important, and we're working to upgrade all the systems that were primarily legacy and sort of Excel based to some that are more AI driven. And then the last but not least I want to mention is collaboration as it drives innovation. It's extremely important to have stakeholders who are engaged both in Saudi Arabia, in the region, and globally, because we cannot achieve anything just on our own, either in Yanbu or in Jubail.
That would go for every single country on the planet, right? Thank you very much for the very detailed case study. And one theme that I'm hearing over and over again is waste recycling, and that's actually our next pillar, which is innovative solutions for industrial waste recycling, because industrial waste is produced at much greater volumes than residential waste and can often be quite toxic to the environment. And when you have a country like Saudi Arabia, where water is an extremely rare and precious commodity, to be able to turn waste into water or other resources is key. So very quickly, because I've been told we've only got about 5 minutes, maybe a couple minutes more, can you tell us, Your Excellency, about what strategies can be employed to encourage companies to adopt more effective ways to recycle?
Thank you, Amanda. As you stated, we are in a desert area. It's in a marsh area, and we have a lot of industries. All the water and all the waste that is generated by those industries. We are responsible for that to assure that it is not harming the environment, it's not harming the public, the soil, or the air. So there is very stringent regulation that we are applying and monitoring daily per shift to make sure that there is compliance. And if there is, for example, once in a blue moon there is a violation, that is treated very immediately with measures not to repeat it again and with the violator. The amount of water that is generated, all the water that is generated is being recycled currently as we speak, either in Yanbu or in Jubail, for example. We are using that for irrigation. Currently we have the regional park where 12 million square meter of land has been used in the desert. It's going to be a jungle there. We are making 5 lakes, filling them with water, with irrigation. Millions of plants will be planted there. So all the water has been diverted there, the extra water. A lot of it is being used to make the city greener. Yesterday, Farouk, he visited Jubail and he said it's very green. It is. You go there and the amount of green, the trees, and the same is in Yanbu and other industrial cities for Royal Commission Jubail and Yanbu. But mainly in these 2 cities because they have been there for 50 years. A lot of trees, a lot of green spaces there per person, as I indicated earlier, 90 in some areas or around that 90 square meter per person. Now, there is also collaboration with the academia. We look at, as government, with the academia and the industry, we work together to look at the recycling issues. There will always be challenges. There will always be something new to fix. So there is a lot of work and cooperation with our schools, with our universities, in Jubail, in Saudi, and external, with our great partners that we have, Bechtel and Parsons, and
yes,
they are helping us a lot also in that area to resolve all of these challenges, to learn from them, or to mitigate the impact. One more thing, since we are the city governor, there is no investment there without our review. So we look at what is the waste that is generated, how you will treat it, what technology you are using. Is it in line with our standards? Is it in line with our criteria? If yes, fine. Also, we are encouraging new technologies, state-of-the-art, to resolve the new stringent rules that is put there. If it is outdated technology that is not acceptable, it will not fly. So we have a lot that we are doing in the city for the recycling, to encourage a proper recycling.
So oversight is incredibly important. So talking of Bechtel, Darren, what kind of challenges, what kind of obstacles do you encounter in efforts to protect the environment, to reduce waste, and also to recycle waste?
Great point. Look, I think it's worth just recognizing that what we're all talking about is building physical infrastructure. I mean, that's what's at the core of this. Of course, communities and livability goes hand in hand with that, but it's about building physical infrastructure. So the first thing I would say is, look, we've got to approach this with a long-term mindset, a full life cycle analysis of everything we're building, from design to construction to operation, maintenance, decommissioning, and that's core of all of this. The other thing I think we've got to do is embed that in every step of our analysis. And I think Mahmoud has already given so many great examples about, the whole concept of the industrial cities was around a circular economy. Primary industry feeds secondary industry, secondary industry feeds downstream industry, and that applies to all of the waste products. And that concept and that rigor, I think, from the concepts or the beginning of the planning has been so important. And of course, that then creates the opportunity to create the green spaces through the reuse of industrial wastewater and create one of the most livable cities, I think, in the world. The second thing I would touch on briefly is the growing use of internationally and Saudi environmental standards that really set the bar of what we're all seeking to achieve. LEED being one of the great examples, and Yanbu and of course Jubail, we're working with the Royal Commission right now to achieve the gold standard and international recognition for these these industrial cities in terms of livability, sustainability, reuse of products. And the third thing I would say, which I think is a challenge but also a key opportunity, is we have 50 years of assets in some cases, some more modern, but some of these assets are 50 years old. So equally bringing a life cycle analysis to how we operate and maintain those, bringing the BIM, the building management systems that we have, bringing the digital models that we now are able to create, embed those with aged infrastructure, ensure we get the maximum value out of that infrastructure, eliminate downtime, maximize uptime, eliminate revisiting that. That in itself eliminates waste, sustains those assets for longer, and ultimately, I think, provides a better city for the residents that live in it.
And just taking this one step further, this is actually our last pillar, and that is mitigating the effects of climate change. So these strategies, do you believe, can help mitigate the impacts of climate change?
I genuinely do. I mean, construction and the building of physical infrastructure is one of the key contributors to emissions and to contributions to climate change. So taking this life cycle approach, eliminating materials, reducing quantities, bringing, as you said, modern methods of construction, modularization, electrified construction equipment, everything we do in this process helps aid that. And of course, then maximizing the value of those assets going forward. But I also think, actually, going back to the educational point, making sure that we have the best minds tackling this issue, coming out of the industrial colleges, coming out of the education system in these industrial cities. We all have a huge role to play in addressing this challenge, but it's this emerging leadership and these emerging engineers and leaders now that are ultimately going to be key to solving this problem through the processes that we've all discussed.
And my final question, I'm going to do a 2-for-1 deal and ask you 2 questions in one. So the last pillar, of course, is mitigating climate change and protecting the environment. So where do you think the opportunity is for companies to be able to improve on that? What kind of strategies can they implement to improve on that? And also, what kind of opportunities do you think businesses and industries have for becoming just more sustainable in general?
So I think we've all kind of converged on the importance of the infrastructure,
Totally.
right? And I think what we can do from our side as industrial cities is to make sure that we can provide the best infrastructure, whether it's energy, renewable energy, sustainable water, but it's also very important to provide it at a cost that makes it viable for the businesses to sell their products, right? So these businesses can go elsewhere. They can get renewable energy elsewhere. I think one of the benefits that we have in the kingdom, if you look at Oxagon, for example, and why Oxagon was chosen for the green hydrogen project, is that we can produce renewable energy at the lowest possible cost. Mm-hmm. And that is critically important in helping manufacturers reduce emissions. Right, so
it always comes down to money, right? If it doesn't make economic sense.
In the end, it's all about the financials, right, that work for the companies. So I think that's our job and how we can help them. Secondly, I think we can also help them in terms of managing waste more effectively. Right, so we provide infrastructure to help them on the emission side. We provide strategies to help them on the recycling side. And I think if you do that and you do that cost effectively, you can really make great strides in succeeding in building really successful, sustainable industrial cities and essentially, in the end, enabling manufacturers to produce products. The last part I'll touch on is what we call as Scope 3 emissions. So kind of manufacturers have Scope 1 and Scope 2, which is in their hands. Scope 3 is related to all the transportation, right, and emissions. So what we're doing from the port standpoint is really making the port the most sustainable, efficient port in order that the manufacturers that are using them can essentially reduce their Scope 3 emissions. Mm-hmm. So right from the construction of the port to use the lowest embedded carbon technology and of course, power it with renewable energy. Mm.
So I think on that note, we have to finish up. I would love to keep on asking questions. Do we have time for a quick question from the audience? Unfortunately not. Maybe afterwards you can grab one of the panelists and ask your question in person if you're really lucky. But on that note, we do have time. Just one question. Okay, sir.
We've developed autonomous freight solution with existing railways that allows you to run electrified without locomotives, so having trucks in railways, capacity, flexibility within the field. And I've heard logistics just once at the very end of the discussion, which was great. And I'm really astonished that I didn't see rail on the master plan presentation, even though that there is a Saudi master plan for rail to to connect. I think in the north you're going to be connected with the bridge, right? And I wanted to ask, because this is the most sustainable mode of transportation, what's the role of rail envisioned for Oxagon and the both industrial cities that you are responsible?
Let me take this.
Your Excellency.
The
Thank you.
railroad, for example, in Royal Commission Jubail and Yanbu, it's part of the plan. It's existing as we speak right now. For Jubail, we are using it for cargo. It's taking the cargo from the Jubail Industrial City. Now it's connected to Ras Al Khair. The plan also will come for Yanbu. But as we speak right now, it's been utilized in Jubail. This year we will construct also for the station for the people, for the public. So the same railroad will be used to reduce the amount of cars or trucks for cargo, cars for public, and that will protect the environment. It will be commissioned hopefully in the coming couple of years or so.
Mm-hmm. Let's give our panelists a round of applause for very comprehensively addressing today's topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you from myself,
Thank you.
and also thank you to Saudi House for hosting today's session, and also, of course, to the Royal Commission for Jubail and Yanbu for making this all happen, for organising and hosting this session. On that note, have a lovely evening, everybody. I hope that you got a lot out of all of the sessions so far. There's, I think, more sessions tomorrow. The fun keeps on continuing. So once again, thank you very much from
Thank
me,
you.
Thank
and
you.
good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.